Hello, I'm R.Kishore Kanna, Assistant Professor from Department of Biomedical Engineering from School of Bioengineering, BIST from Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. In this video, I'm here to give lecture on microprocessor and microcontroller in biomedical application on the topic microprocessor 8086 versus microcontroller 8051. In this video, I going to explain about what is the main difference between microprocessor and microcontroller and properties of microprocessor and properties of microcontroller. Microprocessor means a component or a device or a circuit which does the function to produce the output is known as microprocessor. Microcontroller means a component or a circuit which controls the function of microprocessor is known as microcontroller. Controller means controlling the function, processor means processing the function. This is the exact difference between microprocessor as well as the microcontroller. Microprocessor is being widely used for processing unit. Microcontroller is being widely used for controlling unit. Each microprocessor needs a control system like a microcontroller for controlling their processing function with producing accurate results within the short time period. Another definition for microprocessor is a processor or a component which process the given input data and produce the output data within microseconds is known as microprocessor. Same for microcontroller, a component which controls the function of microprocessor within a microseconds and produce the output is known as the microcontroller. So this is the basic difference between microprocessor as well as the microcontroller. As a biomedical engineers, we have to get knowledge and basic knowledge about microprocessor 8086 and microcontroller 8051. In healthcare domains, most of the medical electronic equipments and devices and instrument is being built and constructed by using this 8086 microprocessor and 8051 microcontroller. 8086 microprocessor was being the advancement in the microprocessor 8085. 8086 microprocessor is a 16-bit microprocessor and microcontroller 8051 is the advancement or second generation microcontroller which is being invented by Intel in 1980s. It is a powerful controller or a control system which has a separate memory for data as well as address. So due to the separation in the memory interface, it has the wide variety or a wide specification for processing the data and produce the output within microseconds. So these are the general description of what is microprocessor and what is microcontroller. Now we are going to see what are the components of the microprocessor and what are the components of microcontroller and difference between that components. Okay, a microprocessor simply consists of the processor which will be having ALU. ALU means arithmetic logic unit, a unit which will be processing the given input data by the arithmetic operation in a logical specification is known as arithmetic logical unit. The instruction decoder. A decoder will be a component in the microprocessor which will be decoding the given instruction from the microcontroller or control system. According to that instruction decoding only, data will be processed in the microprocessor and some few register will be allocated. That register will be helping to transmitting the data through the data bus and address bus for shifting the data from one point to another point. That register will be used and some kind of special register will be used for processing the data and for producing the output. Some kind of special register also will be allocated and located in the microprocessor which are used to store the data for mathematical and logical operation. Microprocessor is being basically used for arithmetic operation and logical operation widely. This is the exact operation which is being done by the microprocessor in the electronic gadgets. For example, 8085 and the 8086. 8085 is the first microprocessor invented by the Intel. In 1980, it has advancement in that microprocessor. So 8086 has been invented 8085 was a 8-bit microprocessor and 8086 was a powerful 16-bit microprocessor. So till today, we people are using this 8086 in the electronic gadgets which we are using in day-to-day life. Now we are going to see what is microcontroller. Microcontroller is a device or a component which will be including a processor which is used to process the data according to the instruction produced by the control system called microcontroller, and it also has a ALU, arithmetic logical unit. Same, what is the operation processed for the instruction will be given by this ALU component inside the microprocessor, an instruction decoder, register, and I already told it will be having separate storage for both data memory as well as address memory. So it will be separating its memory interface as ROM and RAM. Due to this separation in memory interface, it increases the processing speed of the data. For this main purpose, microcontroller is being 8051 microcontroller is being widely used in electronic gadgets, and it has ROM and RAM and general purpose input output pins through which it will be acting as a port, okay, where the input after the processing output will be determined. So it will be acting as a dual pathway through which port you are giving the input. In same port you will be taking the output. So this general purpose input output pins will be allocated in 8051. There will be four ports: port 0, port 1, port 2, and port 3. And there will be 40 pin description for 8051, and it will be having timers. Within the timer will be considered to be a clock pulse which will be providing a time period. In the process will be happening within the time period to produce the output within the specified microsecond. So it will be having interrupt controller which will be acting as a checklist for verifying, for cross checking the data which is being processed by the microcontroller as well as a microprocessor to give the instruction from microcontroller to microprocessor. This interrupt controller is being widely used, and it is mainly used for serial communication module circuits, where and all serial way communication is being made. This microcontroller 8051 is being widely used. Its application is being large. It is used in automobile, it is used in biomedical applications, it is used in electronic communication, and it is used in where and all wireless technology is being used widely. And this is the basic difference between the components or module of microprocessor and microcontroller. Now we are going to see about the components of both, which is being initially same for microprocessor and microcontroller. CPU will be same for microprocessor and microcontroller. CPU means central processing unit, which will be acting as a power core for the both microprocessor as well as microcontroller. It has the ability to process the data according to the instruction produced by the control system called microcontroller. And I/O means input slash output. Input is the data which is being given for the processing purpose. Output is the data which is being retrieved after it is being processed. Bus means a pathway which connects the port or which connects the components inside the microprocessor as well as inside the microcontroller, which will be traveling the data or moving the data from one point to another point is known as bus. The bus is being classified into two types. One is data bus and another one is address bus. A data bus means a bus which transmits the data from one point to another point is known as data bus. A bus which allocates a location to store the data in a particular segmented address is known as address bus. And memory is being classified into two types: ROM and RAM. RAM will be for data and ROM will be for address. Here only the storage will be made according to the processing speed and processing element of the data of microprocessor. This ROM and RAM will be varying, and it will be having a timer. Timer will be acting as a clock pulse. It will be producing or it will be allocating some time period. Within the time period, the process should be completed to the function of microprocessor as well as function of microcontroller. Interrupt will be the checklist or a cross verifying point which will be verifying whether the data has been processed properly or not, and it is used to connect the several modules into the components of microprocessor as well as microcontroller. Serial port means a port which is being connected in the serial format, which will be acting as a one-way path through where port can be implemented for giving a data or getting a data. That is known as serial port. And parallel port means the port which will be acting as a dual pathway, which will be connected as a paralleling structures, where you can give the data in same pathway you can retrieve the data. This is known as parallel port. These are the components which is being initially same in both microprocessor as well as microcontroller. Okay, I already told microprocessor will be having general purpose register for processing the data within microseconds. So we are going to see how it is being connected with the CPU, ALU, RAM, ROM, and input output port. CPU will be accessing the general purpose register according to the instruction or command given by the CPU. The general purpose register will be acting, and data will be transmitted from RAM, ROM, input output timer, and serial com port to general purpose register, as well as address bus will be connected to same RAM, ROM, input output port, and timer and serial com port, and the address bus also will be connected to the CPU. According to the CPU's instruction, general purpose register in microprocessor will be acting, and the CPU has the power to process the data according to the need and demand of the given input. Okay, this is the overall architecture, overall block diagram of microprocessor. Microprocessor will be having processor for processing the given input data to produce the output. ALU will be there. According to the arithmetic logical units, data will be processed, and register will be there for providing the for connecting the input output port, RAM, ROM, timers, and serial and parallel port communication. So everything will be connected to the microprocessor through address bus as well as data bus. This is the pictorial representation of 8051 at mega 8 PIC 18F4550's pictorial representation. And we have seen about the microprocessors introduction and what are the components and how it has been having its connectivity inside its internal architecture. Now we are going to see about the microcontroller. Microcontroller is a single chip computer, and otherwise they will be calling it as a single chip computer. Why? Because it will be located as a chip like structure, so it is being considered as a single chip computer. On the chip it will be having ROM, RAM, input and output ports, same as a microprocessor. It will be having in microcontroller in small size when it is been compared with microprocessor. And here also CPU will be connected with RAM, ROM, input output timer, and serial comport port. According to the function of microprocessor, microcontroller will be acting and providing the instruction to produce the output without any bug or delay. And this all components which are being listed inside the microcontroller will be computed or bombarded in a single chip. That is the main thing why it is being widely used. It is small, it is chip like structure, and it is lightweight, and it is easy to portable. These are the main and important feature why 8051 microcontroller is being widely used in electronic gadgets and components in day-to-day life. And this is the pictorial representation of connectivity of microcontroller of its internal architecture. And microcontroller also will be having processor, ALU, register, but in microprocessor, ROM, RAM, timer, serial communication, and input output ports will be in external surface, but in microcontroller it will be in internal surface. Why? Because it is a chip like structure, so it is being bombarded. It is small, so it doesn't have that much complexity in its structure. And the thing which is being connected to the microcontroller will be ADC, DAC, and motor controller. ADC means analog signal will be converted into digital signal by using analog to digital converter, and the DAC means digital signal will be converted into analog signal by using the digital to analog converter, and there is a motor controller which will be controlling the working ability and working function of microcontroller from externally through the processing of this microcontroller. This is the pictorial representation of microcontroller and its internal architecture connectivity. And this is the slide which will be telling exactly about the difference of what is microprocessor and what is microcontroller. Microprocessor CPU will be standing alone, and RAM, ROM, input, output, timer are separate. We already saw in the pictorial representation itself. The CPU will be standing alone. This timer, serial communication, RAM, ROM, input, outputs is being connected to this CPU called microprocessor. And in microcontroller, in pictorial representation itself, we can see everything is being bombarded inside the microcontroller. So CPU, RAM, ROM, input, output, and timer are all in single chip. So this is the first difference between microprocessor and the microcontroller architecture. And designer can decide on the amount of ROM and RAM and input outputs. Here, fixed amount of on-chip ROM and RAM input outputs. That means RAM, ROM is and input output is being externally connected to microprocessor. If the amount of data is being higher while the input is being taken, we can change externally the size of RAM, ROM input and output ports. But for microcontroller, we can't change any. We can't replace or we can't alter this parts. Why? Because it is been bombarded in a single chip. So once it is being set, that will be the specification of the microcontroller. This is the second difference between microprocessor as well as microcontroller. And the microprocessor is bit expensive when it is being compared with microcontroller. For application in which cost, power or spatial are critical for microcontroller, and versatility, microprocessor is been applicable in many applications where and all processing element is being required, and microprocessor is being general purpose usage where and all processing element or processing circuit is being needed. Microprocessor will be used as an alternate or a processing element or processing unit in that electronical circuits or designs or approach or model, whatever device it's being built, it will be built by microprocessor and its applications. When we come to microcontroller for application which cost, power and space are critical, and it has some bugs in their structure. Why? Because it has been compiled as a chip, so it will be facing this kind of complexity, and it is used only for single purpose, for controlling the microprocessor. For that purpose only this microcontroller is being used, but microprocessor will be used for multiple purpose where and all processing element is needed, where and all output is being demanded from an input, they will be using microprocessor. For microcontroller is only function is to use for to control the function of microprocessor. Microcontroller is used to control the function of microprocessor, and microprocessor has the high processing power. Why? Because it only proceeding that function, it only takes the input, process it according to the need and demand of the output and produce the output. It has high processing power, but microcontroller does not have that much function to proceed, so it has low processing power. Its only job to control the function of microprocessor, and microprocessor have high power consumption, but microcontroller have low power consumption. Instruction set focus on processing intense operation. Instruction completely depends upon the microcontroller. Microprocessor instruction will be completely depends upon the microcontroller's instruction, which will be given as a command to the microprocessor for proceeding that operation. But here in instruction set completely on the control. Why? Because it acts as the control system, so it is being under the complete control where the bit level operation will be deciding the function of microprocessor. So microcontroller will be acting as boss and microprocessor will be acting as a labor or worker to proceed that function to complete that work. And typically microprocessor is 32 bit, 8 bit, 16 bits, 32 bit and 64 bit. And typically microcontroller is quite smaller. Why? Because it doesn't have that much processing function to perform. So it will be made up of 8 bit or 16 bit. 16 bit will be powerful in microcontroller and 64 bit will be highly recommendable and highly powerful for the microprocessor. And typical deep pipeline will be composed with 5 to 20 stages in microprocessor, a pipeline which supports the transmission of data when it has been constructed as a bus where the data will be moved from one point to another point inside the microprocessor. Here only single cycle or two stage pipeline is required. Why? Because it has the function to proceed only the instruction set or instruction to which is yet to given to the microprocessor. But microprocessor has the ability to process the function. Microcontrollers only function to give instruction to the microprocessor for processing that function perfectly without any bugs or delay. And these are the exact differences and exact functional differences between the microprocessor and microcontroller. Now I think we can identify a component which can be a processor and which can be a controller by having this difference as a knowledge. And some popular microcontroller are 8051. 8051 is being widely used. Uh, Most probably, we biomedical engineers will be studying 8051 deeply. Why? Because nearly 80 to 90% of medical electronics gadgets or medical electronic device and equipments and instrument is being developed by using this 8051. And to reduce the size of the device, we will be using microchip technology called PIC microcontroller. Peripheral interface controller is called PIC microcontroller. And next level is advancement was ATMEL AVR. AVR microcontroller is being used in artificial intelligence and data science applications. And Texas Instrument MSP 430 will be the microcontroller which is being used for artificial intelligence to which will be used for kind of interface between replacement of implants like bionic arm, automated wheelchair, that and all using this MSP 430 16-bit microcontroller for controlling function. So basically microcontroller is being used as a control system for a circuit to control the circuit without any problem or without any cons. That is the ultimate function and aim of the microcontroller. And thank you.